How many of you all were here in the morning for the round table? How many of you all spoke about work-life balance and work from home? See? So we are very much on that same topic. Did we have some arguments on that topic, or were we all saying, yeah, yeah, yeah? No, nothing. Guys, you all have to also give me some feedback. I think you're all sleeping then, and then all my panelists will go to sleep. And we can't have that. Okay, so what is employee well-being and work-life balance? Okay, these are critical components of a healthy, productive work environment. And they refer to the overall health, happiness, and satisfaction of employees, and a positive work environment. So both in their professional and personal lives, this is very important to all employees. I think we all as HR managers and HR people would just definitely agree with all of this. So in the morning, I was talking to my little dog, and I said, since we're talking about employee welfare and well-being, maybe I should have got her along with me. You all would have de-stressed with her, wouldn't you have? Right? So maybe we have to get some dogs to the office, but let's hear what they are doing now at their own individual organizations. So let's start with Durga, and let's ask him what the terms employee well-being, since he missed the morning session, we will ask him, what are the term employee well-being and work-life balance mean to the various generations in the organization? Today we are dealing with a variety of generations in the organization. We are not dealing with any one. So Durga's going to give some light on that. Durga, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Chanchal. Good afternoon, one and all of you present out here. Well, I think the term work-life balance is a grossly misleading mileage today. And at some point in time, organizations have started moving from work-life balance to work-life integration. That's very, very important. And if you look at the context of work-life balance and equate it to different generations today, I come from a background of healthcare. So healthcare has got a very diverse ecosystem of stakeholders. On one hand, we have doctors who are brand by themselves, and the entire ecosystem of healthcare is managed by paramedics, nurses, and a lot of allied forces, people who work in support streams like HR, marketing, quality, and IT function, all the support functions. But having said that, if we look back at the aspirations and the priorities that have existed for long, if we look at the baby generation, call it the Gen X, Gen Y, the millennials or the Gen Z, essentially things from the past were all around social security measures of retirement benefits, pension, people were looking at PF, good, healthy working relationships, and the term loyalty was absolutely absolute. If I have to put it that way, it was absolutely absolute. But things have come a long, long way. Today, to just give a verbiage comment of a nurse today who comes in and interacts with HR, the question probably 10 years back in the industry was, what was my net salary? Like, what do I take home in terms of pay? That shifted with advent of time. People, same nurses of the new generation came and asked, what's my salary? Which means they wanted an added component of understanding in terms of salary. And today we have the younger generation, the Gen Z nurses coming and walking us, what's my package? Which essentially means that the understanding of salary has transitioned from only net pay or take home to added benefits, to security. Today they are talking of flexibility. Today they are talking of the independence, autonomy, growth, and things like that. So having said that, the generational differences have transition with time. But essentially today when we talk of work-life balance integration, which may mean differently to different generations, it hovers around the base pay or the compensation, which is fairly understandable to everyone out present here. Then it's largely to do with environment, right? We talked enough about, I think in the previous speakers have spoken about flexibility, work arrangements, what kind of connect you have with the organization at work, beyond work. And today we are also talking of development as one of the aspects which was never there. Today the younger generation, the folks are asking about, how do I grow with the organization? When do I connect with the key stakeholders? When we ask youngsters to take up an opportunity today, it's no longer about stability or continuity of work. It's all about growth. It's all about migration. It's all about opportunities and challenges. And the most common feedback we get in the interview post the interviews, and when people complete the entire cycle and leave the organization is, I feel I have contributed enough to my existing role. I need to pick up something challenging. And then there are people telling us that, yes, I think I pursued enough on this role. I need a break. I need to pursue my passion. So those are the verbiages. Those are the comments we come across and see in the day-to-day interactions that can give you a good visibility how things are changing, how the perception of work life, and workplace has transitioned with current times.
Thank you, Durga. So we've actually heard the different generations, but coming to the major challenges of employee well-being, maybe Aman can help us with that and let us understand what the major challenges are.
Thank you. So before I dive straight into what are the challenges with respect to work-life balance, I want to share that this challenge is a two-way street. That means it's not just the responsibility of an organization to create work-life balance, it's also equally the responsibility of the employees to help themselves and the organization to make it possible. So having said that, I want to share with you some of the insights that I have received as a corporate happiness trainer for many organizations. And the first challenge that comes across is what is called conditioning. What exactly does conditioning mean over here? It's all of us have some form of conditioning, mental conditioning, that is, there are certain beliefs that we hold, there are certain patterns that we think are correct. That's what compromises conditioning, right? So for example, what is the main conditioning that most of us are accustomed to? Do we all believe that it's only hard work and sweat and tears that will get us the next promotion? Will it make us super productive? Probably most of us believe that's right. So we have so many examples in the world, like you have, take Steve Jobs, take Elon Musk. People aspire to them, they look up to them. And what does Elon Musk say, for example? I worked 18 hours a day. I did not sleep. Similarly, Steve Jobs also, he was always working, and we see that, and that becomes something that is glorified. How many of you all agree with this particular thing, that it's gotten glorified a little bit? If you agree, can you raise your hand? Yeah? Awesome, okay. So that's the first challenge that comes up. The second one is, how many of you all who would like to tell me what FOMO means? What does FOMO stand for? Okay, so all of you,
Louder.
super, excellent. How many of you all have heard of FOJO? I'll tell you what that means. There's a thing that's happened now which has come up in most of my trainings, that there is a fear of job ousting, which is also in the background in many people's minds. So many layoffs have happened, so many things have happened, especially after the pandemic. And yes, FOJO is a term that I have created, just to be clear, it's not. Okay, so that fear also leads to a lot of behavioral changes in an employee. There's an organization that I'm conducting programs for, and they send out a clear circular that post X PM there should be no emails, etc. Okay, and despite that circular, many people still send down those emails. And most of them are not seniors, they're slightly mid or junior level people, because they want to show that, I am either important, or I cannot be done away with, or I just am willing to sacrifice everything. So that again connects with it being a two-way street, right? And finally, the most obvious point that has come about is technology. This thing in my pocket over here is of course a great boon to us. And just like light, electricity was a boon to mankind, it also has a certain drawback to it. Because of electricity, our minds are fooled into thinking that even 11 PM is time to be active, which is against our circadian rhythms, body clock. Similarly, whenever you hear an email coming up to you, you cannot help yourself but try and look at it, right? Because it's so easy to access you. So these are the challenges that have come up in most of, you can say it's like probably my own research in this segment. And To sum it up, one is conditioning, one is, Fojo, and third one is, what's the third one? Who would like to share what's the third one? Technology. Yeah. There are many more. I am just sharing the first three. Over to you. Yeah,
Thanks, Aman. Thank you. So you heard the challenges, right? But how do you measure a good work-life balance? So Richa's going to give us some ideas on that.
Thanks, Chanchal. So, let's first begin with, I think Durga mentioned, Aman mentioned about what work-life balance really means. And from an organizational standpoint, or even from an individual standpoint, there are 4 key parameters, right? And I'm sure you've very commonly heard that there is a physical wellness element, there is a mental wellness element, there is a financial wellness element, and there is a social wellness element to it, right? Now, all 4 of these need to be in equilibrium for an individual to feel the well-being, right, at the highest level. Now, that is very critical, that you understand that all of these 4 dimensions need equal levels of importance, right? So that's part 1. Part 2 is, I think Aman also mentioned it, that it's a two-way street, and I completely agree with him. I think organizations can put in a lot of actions, there can be a lot of metrics assigned to it, but at the end of the day, each individual needs to know their thresholds on it, right? So when I say threshold, what is my threshold in terms of the amount of hours I want to give in? And today, that flexibility in a lot of organization lies with an individual, right? Lies with the employee. So how do you really understand that threshold of yours, and how do you really voice that threshold of yours is also very important. So it is a two-way process. Organizations will put in measures, will do actions, but equally important is for an individual to know their own threshold and voice those thresholds, right? To say, this is it, right? Beyond this, I think it's going to start to impact me, and my wellness is important, right? I'm important. So that is the other dimension. I think from an organization standpoint, the most obvious measurement matrices around wellness are what you hear and what is bread and butter to most of us here in the room, right? It will reflect on your retention numbers, it will reflect on your productivity numbers, it will reflect on your absenteeism numbers, and overall satisfaction levels within your organizations. And hence, what is important? How do you measure? So what do you do? Where do you start? I think listening is an underrated tool, but a very important tool, right? Organizations need to listen to what their employees are saying and what they are feeling. So it starts with that. Do you have the pulse of what your employees are telling you, how they are feeling? And what do you then do with that, right? So is that listening? But I still continue to do what I need to do, as leadership teams, because, well, there is a goal and there's a target and I'm just going to go after that. Or do you really want to do something about it? So that's the next level of measurement, right? So you start with listening and you decide to take some actions on that result is again very critical. So I think that is very critical, and you could do several surveys, you could do various sessions with your employees, but at the end of the day, what your employees are saying, what they are stating, and how you're actioning that becomes very critical to measure wellness in an organization.
Thank you so much, Richa. So we've actually heard about different generations that we work with, how they foresee employee well-being, what are the challenges that they look for, what are the best solutions. So how about does one solution meet with all? And that's important as well, because you cannot have one solution which will just work for all kind of generations, or all kind of people, or all kind of industries. So, Vijay, over to you. What would you think? Good morning.
Vikas, yeah.
Sorry, Vikas. Sorry.
No, I wasn't sure because you're doing the shuffle in the playlist, right?
Sorry,
so I thought
sorry,
maybe it's going
Vikas.
somewhere else.
My bad, sorry.
No, so I'm, okay, so a couple of things. One is that, just breaks my heart to see the attrition in the room. Yeah. I wish there were more people here, but the attrition rates seem to be high. I even went to the other room. Maybe they've walked to the competitor of ours, but they haven't. So here's the thing. I mean, paracetamol does work for all kinds of people, doesn't it? So I don't know, but HR matters a little different. I, in the interest of a bit of sparring, so that this panel doesn't become too boring, I would like to disagree with Durga, who's a great friend of mine, to say that, there are generations in the organization. And actually, this is disagreeing with most of us who have believed that there are generations in the organization. I'll tell you why. I don't think the stereotyping of the generation is the right approach. It's good to say that Zs behave in a certain way, and everybody assumes that all Zs behave in that way, or all millennials behave in that way. I come from a manufacturing setup where I've recently joined. I go and check those generations. They do not behave like that. Right? So I think a lot of this has got to do with the background, with the cultures, with the upbringings, with the conditioning, as Aman said. A lot of that is important. And I think the way to start is not to stereotype by saying that, if it's X year born, this is what I'm going to do. The way to solve for this is something that marketeers did this about a couple of decades back, or maybe decade back, to say that this design thinking, you do some personas. You identify the personas in your organization. You would be surprised that, people you think are Zs actually behave, or rather expect the kind of treatment that millennials do. And I'll give you a live demonstration right now. There's a statistics on Glassdoor, which I was just reading through the chat board, saying that 75% of the employees are willing to take a compromise or a hit on their salary if they get trophy perks like, pet-friendly policies or free coffee or bean bags. How many of you would agree to this, right? But there's a 75% world out there, okay? So I think different strokes for different folks. I mean, not the same solution works. In the context of employee well-being, I mean, this goes deeper when we start thinking policies, right? In the morning, the reason Chanchal asked you is because this was discussed. In the morning, we had this conversation that, HR is becoming the custodian of policies, saying that this is the policy, okay? Now everybody live by it. I very firmly believed, and I've been saying this again and again, that gone are those days. HR now needs to start thinking HR policies by the people, for the people, of the people. Okay, you cannot have one policy fits all. I mean, I come from an organization, long time back, I spent 14 years, they used to have a dating allowance for bachelors. I wonder if a 50-year-old still needs that benefit. Probably the 50-year-old needs more medical checkup allowances than dating allowances. So that's the concept of hyper-personalization, and well-being or benefits can be so well articulated for personalization, but we have to go beyond that. Well-being is not just about, the benefits on medical insurance. I think well-being is also how do you manage your performance rating, and Savita is going to kill me now because she's heard me like a broken record keep talking about learning being personalized, performance management being personalized. Performance management still a rank and yank approach. We have so many of those 40-year-old practices that we preach, and we do it because, we have our blinkers on. It is time to reimagine that, what of these processes can be now personalized to the personas that exist in your organization. And if you do a little bit of deep dive, you'll realize that broadly about 8 to 10 personas can be easily identified in the organization, and it is not about the age. I'm sorry, but just had to do a bit of sparring.
Thank you so much. So Savita, hopefully you won't kill him. Savita is going to talk about some innovative ideas that she has looked at in terms of looking at employee well-being and how she's managed it. And I request any of you all can also jump in after Savita. Don't worry, you have the floor first.
Yeah, so I think it's nice to get the question when half of the panelists covered all the topics and most of the points. So I think it's, my thought is little, again, it starts on a different, by your own self. First, it starts with you, whether you're an HR, manager, employee, whatever it is, right? For example, and I'm going to give you examples of it later, what we do as an organization, but what we do as individuals. For example, we talked about the mails coming, the pop-ups coming in the night, and I'm trying to be proactive to respond. How many of you have actually said no to your bosses or to your US client if there has been a call set up on Friday evening after 7 or 8? There you go. I did that. And believe in me, my boss, and forget about my boss, my business leader hated me. And I told him why it's important. And today, if there is a call which is set up at even 8:15, he calls me. Do you know that guy has set up a call on my calendar? Can you ask him? I said, why don't you respond to him? And he started responding. And I've done that to my business head as well. So it starts, and it's your team who follows it. And as you mentioned, Aman, there are teams who will still work in the night. Yeah. I should literally call them and said, shut down, otherwise your rating is going further down to need improvement. Believe in me, I did that because sometimes we have to draw those lines. And it starts with us. It starts with your leaders. It starts with the mindset. Now, as an organization, yes, most of the organization are doing multiple things on employee well-being, mental wellness, and whatnot. In our organization, we focus on body, mind, and the social responsibility, which we very strongly focus on. Yes, Ajim Premji Foundation is there, where we think that with Wipro Care and with Ajim Premji Foundation, we make sure that it's a sense of responsibility to the social. Also, we want to contribute, right? And we want to create that. It's not about just because you are there, and it's not HR who runs these sessions. It's a business who runs for their own. We are not an EA to run these employee well-being session or this. Please understand, it is from the team you build together, you work with the business, you ask them, and in fact, it is our leaders, business leaders who chair that, who run these sessions for us. Whether it's your managers, for example, now we have hybrid, work from home, permit, whatever we call it, right? Multiple organizations have various things. But how are you enabling the manager? And for example, how are you enabling the employees? What are you telling them? What are the things available for them? Are you communicating enough? We all have enough of policy, as Vikas mentioned, na? We have done enough. We have enough of policy defined. We have done enough of insurance, PF, well-being, group, blah, blah. All we have done. But is your employees really aware of it? Are you really going and talking? Is your manager aware of it? Forget about employee. It's not that HR should go around taking the flags and say, yeah, this is what we're doing. No, you have to enable your managers. And that's what we do. We have enabled our managers, we have enabled our employees. We are creating that awareness so that everyone knows what to do, where to reach out if you need help. And now the second focus for us, while we are building the capability of the managers, enablement, and educating employee, the focus also is on the financial well-being. So I don't know how many of you are agreeing on it or not, but at least I know if somebody would have told me some 20 years ago to invest somewhere X amount, I would have been billionaire and doing something else. But I think we didn't have that education. And if you talk about, I see my friends' kids or I see colleagues, or when we go to college, you ask them about the financial well-being. I think somewhere that piece is missing. We are not educating enough. So I think as an organization, we are investing that. And again, there is no generations there because all need. And I don't want to bring diversity also in between, please, for God's sake. That's the last one which I want to talk about. But I think that's something which we all need, that education, and that's why we are investing on. So I think these are the 2-3 points which we are looking at. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Savita. Any other innovative ideas that anybody would like to share?
I think a couple of takeaways. This again, my personal view. I think Aman spoke about it briefly. That employee well-being or the employee well-being or integration, whatever you might call it, is not an organization's responsibility. It is a matter of choices. Your life is an outcome of the choices you make. So your definition of work, workplace, career, rewards, and growth has to all come from yourself. That will determine the kind of organization you choose to work with, the culture that defines the leader, or the kind of leadership diktat that happens in organizations you choose to work with. Is largely an outcome of the choices you make. So in the current discussion of the yesterday's event that's floating around, I think it's more to do with individual choices and outcomes we make. And the other thing, I've always believed in, if I get into the other side of the table, don't switch jobs when you don't like them. When you're in difficulty, don't switch jobs or make decisions, because everything outside seems so good. Everything outside will look so pleasant, which may not be the case. So switch job, make a transition when you are very comfortable and everything is going good, because you're likely to end up making the right choices. That's a significant takeaway which I have implemented all my life, and that's one of the messages I would like to leave with the audience.
That's great.
Thank you.
And I think I agree with you on that, yeah. So if you're, doesn't mean everybody has to change jobs, huh? So thank you, everyone. I mean, I think we have a little time. No? Okay. Okay. So I hope you'll enjoy the session. And if you haven't, please say yes again that you have. We have tried very hard to make you all wake up after lunch. Okay, so thank you, panelists. Thank you so much for being a fantastic panel, and all the best. Thank you.